back to the Idle Talk podcast. My name is Peyton, and as always, I'm joined by my friend Jacob. In this week's episode, we are going to talk about luxury items and their unique place in Survivor history. But before we dive into the episode, I want to interject here at the front end and say that we actually recorded this episode a couple of months ago. We recorded this all the way back in February before the season premiere of 46 had even happened. So any references to season 46 in this episode were before we had even watched season 46. So I wanted to give you that context here before we start the episode. Today we are talking about luxury items, specifically the luxury items that you can see in season 2 of Survivor and a few seasons afterwards, but then they're kind of gone? Because they come back for a couple of random seasons and then they're actually gone. And so we're going to talk about that today and talk about, if we were going on these early seasons of Survivor, if we would take an advantageous luxury item, if we would take a meaningful luxury item, what we think of luxury items. So before we dive into that, how are you doing today, Jacob? What do you think of luxury items? And if you could go on Survivor, what would you take?
I'm doing pretty good. I think, honestly, luxury items are just so weird. I didn't even realize. So if you haven't listened to any of our earlier episodes of our podcast, we've talked about what seasons of Survivor we've seen before, and I have not seen anything season 20, I think, something like that. So most of my Survivor knowledge is more of the newer seasons. So I didn't even realize that luxury items were a thing. I didn't know people were allowed in these early seasons that they were allowed to bring something from home. So I think it's a really interesting thing, but you really don't see too much of it because a lot of them don't necessarily have an impact on the game itself. It's more just a lot of people bring something just to make themselves a little bit more comfortable on their stay and their Survivor journey. So I think it's pretty interesting, but I think if I was to bring a luxury item, if I was bringing something purely just to help myself have a better experience on the island, I think I would have to bring my Whim machine. So, listener, this thing right here, let me explain. I know why you're giving me the face. I know why you're giving me a face. I will explain. So, this thing right here, listener, if we end up posting this video, this thing right here is what I call a Whim machine. So it plugs into my wall and it releases like a whooshing white noise effect to help me sleep, because my parents used it on me ever since. You weren't even making noise. There was no registry in your mic.
I was making it. It sounded really good. It sounded just like it.
So my parents, when I was a baby, they used this noisemaker on me, and now I am stuck with it for the rest of my life because I can't sleep without it. But I wouldn't bring this specific one. I would bring this little portable battery-powered one that you can put in baby strollers, and it's like the size of an apple. So and it's battery-powered, so you don't need an outlet. So if I was gonna go on Survivor, that's what I'd bring.
You realize Survivor's in the wilderness. There's live wind right there. You're potentially on a beach. It
doesn't have the same effect.
There's wind.
It doesn't have the same effect.
There is a natural wind machine.
It doesn't have the same effect.
You realize you'd probably be voted out right away because no one's going to be able to sleep because you're sitting there playing this white noise machine that's going to drive everyone insane.
Everyone's going to love it, and they're going to be like, wow, thanks, Jacob, for bringing this amazing device that's helping us sleep so much better, and we have so much more energy now.
No, everyone is already struggling because they're sleeping in the worst environment possible, and it's just the worst conditions. Everybody's starving, struggling, and now you're going to bring this wind machine that is designed for babies.
I'd also turn it down really low and place it right next to my head so it wasn't loud for everyone else. So I'd turn it really, really low. And if someone had an issue with it, I'd probably stop, but I'd do everything in my power to be able to use it. But that's probably what I would bring.
You're telling me out of everything that you could bring to go on the island to actually
to help you win the game, to put you in your best, like, because we're saying this isn't like something to kind of cheat the game. This isn't something that's giving you an advantage. This is something to put you in the best headspace as a luxury item. You would take a wind machine because you think it would actually give you better quality of sleep.
Yes.
On the island.
I physically cannot sleep without it.
Do you think that would give you better quality of sleep over taking like a pillow?
Yes.
Or a blanket?
Yes.
There's no way. There's no way.
It's to the point where when it turns off in the middle of the night, like if my power goes out, I wake up instantly.
I think I've said this before. I think that you need to really start weaning yourself off of this thing because I think it's a problem.
But the thing is, I can't because I physically cannot fall asleep.
I know, and that's why you need to start weaning yourself off of it. That's why I say wean. I don't say cold turkey it, but we need to approach this like you're a heroin addict, all right? We need to do it like you know how, okay, so with heroin addicts, right? They have these the safe needle stations, right? Where you can go and shoot up with doctors where they have clean needles and it's safe. And we can start, doing lower and lower doses. And so we can move it a little further from your bed, every week, just a little further each time. And it's a little quieter and a little quieter and a little quieter until eventually you can't really hear it. And then it's just gone. And that way, you're not going to be a nuisance to your future partner. Because I really think you're gonna be in trouble one day. I just think you are, man.
If whoever I marry doesn't like my wind machine, then they're not the one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to find the one because I think it's gonna drive anyone insane, bro. We shared a room for a year. Some of our listeners are about to get some deep lore here. There's some Peyton and Jacob lore about to come out right now. We shared a room for a year in a space, and we cohabitated, and it drove me insane. And I'm one who I sleep with like a fan on because I like having there being room noise is fine, but the pitch of this is like grating. It's awful. It's the worst.
It's really not.
It's so
it's really
bad.
not.
It's so
He's being
bad.
dramatic.
It's so bad.
He's being dramatic.
No, it's so bad. I don't like it. Anyways, all right. I think that is incredibly silly, but good to know that
sillier than some of the what other people brought. I'm
not saying it's sillier. It is on par with silly that they're bringing out. Now, let me ask you this: why would you? So you'd bring it out there, but it does run on batteries. Do you think it would actually last the full 30 days? Granted, now you got to think through, all right, this is the Outback. Their camp did flood. I'm just wondering, do you think it's going to survive the elements? Do you think that it's going to actually make it the full 30 days? Do you think it's a wise decision to bring this electronic device out in the wilderness?
I mean, to be fair, regardless of whether it was an electronic device or not, most people lost their luxury items in the flood. It didn't matter that they were electronic or not.
Yeah, I'm just saying, regardless of the flood, there's going to be rain, So it's still you know what I'm saying? It's just it seems like a risky decision. But all right,
I guess
enough. I'm not going to criticize your decision there anymore. We'll talk a little bit more about strategic decisions when it comes to bringing like a strategic luxury item. But I think that is an interesting luxury item to bring. That's not where I thought you were going to go with that. But that is out of the box. And it's not the craziest thing. You're right. It's not the craziest thing you could bring into the Outback or to Fiji or wherever you're going. Are there any luxury items that people brought specifically to season 2 that stand out to you that you think are maybe weirder or a worse luxury item, perhaps, from what you'd have suggested that you would bring?
Well, I think you first need to answer what you would bring.
What I would bring? Anything I would bring, I think, is strategic. I don't know if there's anything that I would bring that would be just like for pure joy. You know, I can't think like there's nothing. I can't think of anything that I have that is just a straight up like luxury that I own that I would need to bring. Other than the fact that like, so I have more deep lore. I have keratoconus, and so I have very special eye contacts, and so I guess maybe for my eyes would they require me to bring the whole kit that it requires to actually take care of them. That's the reason I'm not applying for a survivor, is because my eyes require a lot of care and attention. So maybe that. But I think anything that I would bring I would be viewing it as a strategic advantage. I can't think of anything that I would bring and I would be like, oh man, I want to bring that because that would be so much fun to have. Some of the things, when I'm looking at the list of what people brought, I think maybe like a board game or something could be fun, or a card game. So I obviously, like, I have a lot of board games and stuff. So maybe if I was going to go grab, I'm trying to think of like a game that you could play over and over and over again, that you could play on the sand or something. Probably a card game. So, okay, here we go. Secret Hitler. There we go.
I was thinking about that.
That's got to be okay. For anyone who doesn't know what this game is, I promise it's not actually about Hitler. It's not fascist. It's not bad. But it is a game about lying and deception. I feel like it would be incredibly ironic to play that game on Survivor and just lie to people the whole time in your downtime. That would be so fun. Maybe that would be my luxury item. I think that would be hilarious. Would CBS allow it? Probably not. But that would be so much fun. So, okay, maybe the board game Secret Hitler is my luxury item just for giggles. I think that would be hilarious. So let's go with that. That would be really fun. Now, going back around to the question, is there anything that was brought to season 2 that you think is dumber than a wind machine?
Yeah, I think there's multiple that are dumber than a wind machine.
All right.
I think the most dumb one is Jeff's crayons and coloring book. It just kind of makes me giggle looking at it. Like, what? I mean, I guess it'll provide you some entertainment, but I don't know.
He likes
Seems
to color.
Kind of dumb to me.
He likes to color. He likes.
I also think bringing makeup is not smart, because you're gonna get dirty and you're gonna get sweaty and you're gonna go in the water. So it's like, why would you bring eyeliner? It's gonna wash away anyways. I think that one's kind of useless. So I think the coloring book, the eyeliner, I think Elizabeth's headdress is cool. I think it's funny and it looks cool, but it's pretty useless. It's not functional,
but I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's a blast. I think she was just like, because the way they said it was part of her audition process and the whole kind of story behind it. I think it just shows her personality and she was having a good time. So I'm not mad at it. It doesn't provide any sort of advantage, which I think is supposed to be the point of a luxury item. So I don't think it's luxurious in any sort of way, but I love it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's fun. But again, I do think it's kind of like, it's silly. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, but bringing lipstick, bringing eyeliner, I think those are... Hairbrush is okay. Your hair's going to get messed up anyway, though. I guess it's just if you don't want your hair to get tangled.
If you have really long hair,
if you have like really thick, if you have like thick, coarse hair, yeah, I understand why you would want a hairbrush. But yeah, I think makeup is a pretty poor item to bring, just because you're really not going to get any use out of it.
Yeah, maybe the thought process in these early days is you're going to be on camera. You need to look good for the camera, but it's like, I mean, you're going to be crawling through the mud and you're going to be out in the woods and stuff and out in the outback, and it's, who cares? You know, it's also like, is putting lipstick on really going to do it for you? Like, is that really going to make a huge difference when you're dirty and grimy and whatever? Maybe. But it's also, it may also just be, obviously, we can't speak on this much, as I can't speak for you personally. I've never worn makeup, so
Nope.
I don't know personally, but it could also just be, I know maybe it could be for Mad Dog, for Marilyn, it's just a personal thing where she likes wearing makeup, and it is a personal self-confidence thing, and she just likes wearing it, and it makes her feel like herself. I know that that's something where my grandmother, she wears makeup, or lipstick, like she just does. That's just part of her getting ready. I've never seen her not wear makeup. That's just her. And so I could see that being just who she is. And so it's part of her. It would be a luxury item that she needs to bring to really feel like herself in the Outback. So I could understand that being why it needs to be a luxury item, that for her to really feel like herself, she needs to have the lipstick. If she really truly needed it, I could kind of see that being the case. I could understand that, or I can't personally understand that, but I can kind of make that connection, having, I've never seen my grandmother not wear makeup ever. That's just what she does. So that's kind of the thing that I could see. I don't think I really doubt she brought it being like, man, I really need to look nice for everybody here. I really don't think I don't think women or whoever wear makeup for other people. They wear makeup because they want to wear makeup. So I think that may have been probably the reasoning, or that's my thought at least.
Yeah, I looking at the list, I think the most fun ones are Jerry's bongos.
The bongos so fun. I love it.
The bongos are so silly. I think it's also plays into the fact that she was annoying people with them.
It was so fun. Psychological warfare, man. We talked about it last week.
So I think she just kind of wanted to mess with people. So I think the backgammon set got a lot of screen time. They played a lot of backgammon, it seemed. So the backgammon, they didn't get a lot of use out of the Scrabble, and didn't really see them throwing the frisbee around or anything like that. This has been the second time that someone brought a Bible and said that they would burn the pages if they needed to start a fire, which, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd take my Bible and then proceed to rip pages out of it. Feels a little sacrilegious to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, they said they'd burn the unimportant ones at the front of the book, which you man, go for it. Interesting. I would now if I was thinking, and we'll talk about this in a minute. If we were going to bring functional things, I think a book is probably a good functional thing to bring. Maybe bring a really long book and
bring Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Bring something and bring.
I'll just bring Webster's dictionary.
There you go. Yeah, but you also want to bring a book that you want to read, so that way you can get some enjoyment out of it while you're also using it for fire. You just need something with a really long prologue or epilogue or an appendix section or something, or maps in the back that you don't really need to reference. So that's where Lord of the Rings could be good, but you get one of the versions with a bunch of maps at the end, because then you can rip those out, and then you're not really losing a lot of content. So yeah, the Bible I think is probably smart, or any other book. If you're okay ripping pages out to burn, you do you, I guess. Go for it. I think probably the smartest of the items, and the one that I am most confused that production allowed, and I think is really the reason why we decided to record this episode, is Colby's, the Texas flag.
The Texas flag.
Which, I don't know how big this flag was, but it looked like it was 10 foot by 25 foot.
Yeah, it looked massive.
Huge.
It was enough to cover their shelter.
It was humongous. Massive flag.
So for anyone who hasn't seen season 2, Colby brings this massive Texas flag, and a big part of Colby's personality in general is, he's really, really proud to be a Texan. He's like, I'm proud to be, he's just like, I'm proud to be from Texas. And so he brings this giant Texas flag, and his tribe ends up using it as basically a tarp to cover their shelter, keep them dry from the rain, and things like that. So it was a pretty advantageous luxury item to bring, it definitely gave them a pretty big advantage in terms of being able to weather the elements a lot better. So it's pretty crazy that they let him bring this massive luxury item, and Colby ended up losing his luxury item towards the end of the season after they had misrationed all their rice. So they were out of rice and they were starving. And Jeff was like, okay, I'll give you this rice that'll last you the rest of the season. But in exchange, I'm taking all of your shelter items. So your pillows, your blankets, and the Texas flag that's covering your shelter. So obviously the Texas flag was doing its job, serving as a tarp, considering Jeff took it away from them.
Yeah. It's something that it just feels... It's one of those things that it's very clear that Colby brought it to be a tarp. He did not bring it as a luxury item. And it's one of those ones where most of the other ones, you could see how they were brought as a luxury item, except for Keith's paella pan was probably brought as a survival item, because it's literally a pan for cooking. So it was like, all right, he brought that, but they also get a lot of cooking supplies, so I don't really know why he needed to bring a paella pan. But okay, Keith, he brought something for cooking. Makes sense, on brand, cool. This was just showing that Colby was very clearly thinking about bringing something to help with the game. And it being a Texas flag made it a luxury item, And so it's something that I'm really surprised that the producers allowed it. And it made for interesting television, but it feels like an unfair advantage. And it's something that it doesn't, obviously we don't have luxury items in Survivor today, but it's something that I don't think, obviously we'll see in upcoming seasons. There's still going to be luxury items for the next couple of seasons, but I don't think any sort of luxury item like this is going to fly. I don't expect to see a luxury item of this level of game impact. I don't foresee us having something like this anytime soon. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I just don't see a flag this size or anything that could be that have this level of survival impact come anytime soon. I think if you're going to have a luxury item, it should, it should be kind of like a comb, a game, an instrument, whatever. That's kind of what a luxury item is. When people bring a guitar, they bring something like that. I think that's usually what it is.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if there is a luxury item that makes production stop, or do they just do it just because they don't want to do it anymore, or will there be a luxury item that's just kind of game breaking and that gives a tribe a really unfair advantage? I'm interested to see if that happens later on, or it's just production saying, nah, we don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I know. So I know the last season where they really have it is Survivor the Amazon. And then they bring it back for Panama and Heroes versus Villains as a reward sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they bring it back for a couple more seasons. They bring it back for Redemption Island, South Pacific Blood versus Water, and Koorong as different kind of rewards and things where they could kind of pick luxury items and then they could be introduced into the game in different ways. But I know that we only get, if we only get it through the Amazon, that means we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess that's season 6. So 6 seasons of luxury items. So I don't know what luxury items come in the Amazon, but yeah, I'm interested to see if there's just a game-breaking one in the Amazon that maybe made that change, or if it was just at that point they were just kind of nah,
they're just kind of over
we're over it. We don't need it. It's also interesting that it's the Amazon, because that's not because I kind of thought maybe it would be if it was season 7, that makes sense because season 8 is All Stars. So it would maybe make sense that luxury items go away, All Stars, they don't bring luxury items, and then it just never comes back. But they kind of did away with it before All Stars. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how they're phased out. So yeah, I'm going to be interested to see. I do think the smartest people in terms of bringing something for luxury are the ones that bring something to do, because I think that's where you get bored. And I kind of would, and maybe this is where we take the conversation before we talk about like something strategic we bring, before we kind of wrap this conversation up. I think the smartest thing is bringing something to do. What would your thoughts be if people got to bring something to do? Because I think that's where, nowadays people are, that's what they say. They're bored. They don't have anything to do out there. If people got to bring a luxury item, but there were, strict rules, would you be interested in seeing luxury items reintroduced into Survivor? Or do you think that Survivor, like no luxury items should be there at all? Like, do you think, should someone be able to bring a comb or a bongo or a backgammon set or Scrabble or whatever? Or should Survivor just be straight up, they need to just sit around the fire all day and hang out? Where do you sit on that?
I don't mind. I don't think luxury items should come back as every person just gets to bring something, because I think inevitably people will find ways to be able to manipulate their luxury items, even if it is just like board games and brushes. People can get really creative. Mm-hmm. You can get really creative with very limited supplies. So I think it opens up another window of variability that we don't necessarily need in the game. So for that reason, I would say I don't really want luxury items to make a comeback in terms of people being able to just bring something. I do, however, really want them to start bringing back luxury rewards.
Yeah.
I'm getting really bored of just food rewards and every single reward being going to the sanctuary and just getting some food.
Yeah. We've talked about
really
that before.
miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really want them to bring back the luxury rewards where they get chairs, they get pillows, or they could even throw in where they get games. They get some fun things to do. And as a part of the little luxury package, they could get hairbrushes, they could get toothpaste and toothbrushes to make their lives better, and they could get a soccer ball, like anything like that. I think that could be really fun to do in terms of a luxury reward.
Yeah. Give this in season 46, give Siga a guitar. That's what we need. Give Ben Katzman a guitar. Please do it. I want that tribe to have a guitar. That'd be awesome. I just want to see him rock out, man. That's all I want. Yeah. I think that's kind of what Survivor needs. I think letting people bring their own luxury items, it puts too much stuff in the game. If you have 18 items in the game, I think that becomes craziness. But if you start to introduce a couple of items into the game, I think that becomes you start to see interesting dynamics come up, and you start to see their personalities come out. And that's what we've said numerous times. We love seeing their interactions, and we love seeing these players connect and talk to one another and be informal and hang out. Like, we love seeing the island life, and it's more fun to see them hang out and play backgammon than it is to just see them sit around a fire and sing, camp counselor songs. It just is.
So something that I just thought about that could be really cool to kind of incorporate the luxury items, because in the same vein that we talked about with our season 1 review, talking about the 3 pillars of Survivor, and then talking about how a big problem with this season, or the new era of Survivor, is how hard it is and how demoralizing it can be if you constantly just keep losing. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy for tribes to get in a cycle of continuously losing once you kind of start down that downward spiral. So something that I think could be really cool was, if they were going to do the luxury reward, you could do it in a way where you bring back the challenges where if you have like two tribes going against each other, you can bring back where it's one person versus one person, or like a man and a woman versus a man and a woman, and where they like are wrestling each other or trying to knock each other off podiums or something like that. But do it round based, so not one tribe is winning all the luxury items. You could do, okay, this round you're playing for pillows. This round you're playing for chairs. This round you're playing for entertainment. This round you're playing for self-care, like a self-care kit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be really cool to do too.
Yeah, and then that way it's not like one tribe wins everything.
Yeah.
Then it's more than likely one tribe's probably going to win most of it, but you can still, everybody can still kind of get bits and pieces, and that way you can still kind of keep morale up for everyone, and that might be the boost that the loser tribe, like last season with the Lulu losers, the Delulu tribe that everybody likes calling them one of those two names, maybe that gives them that little bit of spark, maybe some pillows is really what they needed to push them through and give them that one win that helps kind of turn things around and make them a little bit more competitive, in the next challenge. And yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think they just need a little bit more, and we've said this a lot, there just needs to be a little bit of variety, they're so close. It feels like this era, there's so much going on where it feels very, very close to being right, and it's just not quite there. And that's where we're really interested to see how season 46 is there. First episode, we're optimistic. At the time we're recording this, we haven't seen the second episode yet. It hasn't launched, but by the time this episode's coming out, it will have already been released. So we haven't seen it yet. So we don't have thoughts on that at this moment. So before we wrap this up, we've mentioned it a couple times. I want to hit it before we end this, but if we were to go back to the Outback, let's take it, stop talking about season 46, go back to where we kind of were. Season 2, Australian Outback. The rules are very lax. You can bring a really big flag of Texas out here, apparently. So the producers do not care. You can bring what you want. If you can bring something that helps you survive out here in the Outback, what is something that maybe you would bring to give you an advantage on the survival side? What do you think is something that is a smart luxury item to bring into the Outback that would be a smarter decision than, say, war paint or a songbook or a coloring book or a frisbee? What are you thinking is a wiser decision?
See, I'm wondering, like, could you bring, like, did anyone try to bring, like, matches or anything like that?
I'm going to imagine you're not allowed to bring... I think they probably said no matches. I think you can't bring matches. You probably can't bring a knife. Probably can't bring, like, a machete. Like, there's probably like limits like that where you can't bring anything that is, like, intended as survival gear. I don't know. Like, I'm wondering if you could bring a magnifying glass. I don't know if that would be allowed. So I would, like, that's something I would try, is like maybe a magnifying glass for giggles. That could be fun. Or like a telescope or something. Like a compact extending telescope or something to help with starting a fire. But I'm going to imagine you can't bring an actual knife or, Swiss Army knife or something like that. Probably can't bring.
Yeah.
But what I bet you could bring, and I think you might be able to get away with it, especially in this early season, I think you might be able to bring a sewing kit. And that's what I would try to bring. See if I could bring a sewing kit. Because I think you could turn it into a fishing kit. Because I think you could turn those, like the sewing needles, into fish hooks.
Into hooks.
And then turn your thread into fishing line. And so I think you could convert that into a halfway decent fishing kit. It's not going to be like optimal, but it's better than nothing. And you could also use, needle and thread to help with your shelter and other useful things. So that's one thing that I thought of. I wonder if you could also maybe bring spices. I don't know if they would let you bring spices as a luxury item. That's something that toes the line, but I mean, they let people bring like a razor, which seems like, I mean, that's pretty close to like a knife and stuff. So I'm wondering how much they actually care. Like maybe spices.
Something that I think could also be good strategy-wise would be sunscreen.
Mm-hmm.
Sunscreen is really helpful because you burn a lot because, you know, you're shirtless a lot of the time and there's not really much protection, but it's also kind of helpful for starting a fire because it's like an aerosol can, so you can kind of use it almost like lighter fluid. So
you're
I think that
like
could be
spray sunscreen.
Yeah.
Or like I'm also thinking a compact like folding mirror. I think would also be probably really helpful. I'm thinking also like starting fire. That might actually be probably easier than magnifying glass to get in, like a compact mirror. You could also probably easily get that in as like a makeup kit in this early season. You go and say, hey, I want to take in this makeup compact, and it's got a mirror in the top, and then boom, now you got a mirror to direct light, start yourself a fire. Boom, we're good. You know, that gets us half of the way there. It's probably pretty great. But this is all the way back in 2000. What I would really want to take, if I could just like take whatever, I'd want to take a life straw. Because I mean that's just the cheat code. Because then you just go drink water. You don't gotta boil it. You just go sip it right out of the stream, and we're good to go. You know, don't gotta boil it. I mean, you win. You win Survivor right there. You got a life straw. It doesn't matter.
You got to go through a lot of, and this was before they had a well, so you had to go through a lot of effort to get clean drinking water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super. I totally have not even thought about that this whole time.
They don't have a well.
They don't have a well, and that's something I've not processed, that they're boiling all their water, which seems like, yeah, duh, they're boiling their water. But as we're also watching season 46 at the same time in Survivor now, it's like, yeah, you just go get water from the well. Like, yeah, that's just what you do. And in old Survivor, you boil your water. Yeah, that's just what you do. I wonder at what point that changes. That's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. Because I don't know what season they switch.
I'm assuming it probably has more to do when they're established and they're not moving, like when they're in Fiji most of the time, I feel like is when I would have to guess, but
maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. So yeah, that'll be a fun point to see when they make that transition to just providing clean drinking water and not requiring them to boil it. But yeah, in these early seasons, man, if you had a life straw, you're way ahead. Because
I wonder if they do it because did anyone get dysentery on the show?
I don't know. Let me ask.
It's a pretty real thing that could happen.
I'm gonna ask Gemini. Let's find out right now. It's thinking. Due to privacy concerns and the nature of medical information, details about specific illnesses or medical conditions experienced by contestants on Survivor, including dysentery, are not publicly available. However, it is highly likely that contestants throughout the show's history have experienced various illnesses, including gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah, I would imagine I'm sure it's pretty likely that someone got sick from the drinking water.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a likely outcome. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Pearl Islands is the first season to not have luxury items. Sorry, that I just totally pivoted. But I saw when I flipped back my tab over to the luxury items page, I saw the statement that said Pearl Islands was the first one to not have luxury items, and I guess they make note of that in that season. So that's going to be an interesting season to see as well. But yeah, I've not thought about the water. So I guess that would be in season 2, if we can take whatever we want. Maybe that's something to take. If we can take whatever we want, I don't know, maybe like an iPhone and like a MagSafe charger with like a solar powered like bank on it or something. That'd be pretty cool. You know, I mean, I win right away. That's more powerful than anything they got out there. I can shoot 4K video. I can already shoot better than any of their cameras. I win. But yeah, I think a sewing kit would be pretty good. And I think there's a lot of ways to game the system, but I think it's hard. I think it's kind of hard to do better than Colby's flag. I think is kind of the
that's
gist
pretty
of
good.
it. I think he just gamed the whole system right out of the gate. I think that's the short of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, we didn't really have an objective for this episode. We just kind of wanted to talk about luxury items for a minute. Is there anything else that you want to talk about related to either luxury items or anything else you want to speak on related to season 2 before we kind of close this chapter and then before we kind of move on to season 3? We'll probably end up revisiting, this season at another point as well, but before we move forward.
Not really. I feel like we've talked about season 2 quite a lot, so I feel really good about it. I really enjoyed it. It was a really fun season. Even still looking back, it's been a little while since we officially finished, but I still really enjoyed it and still think it's a really solid season, and looking forward to the future of watching Survivor Africa, continuing to watch Survivor 46 as it's coming out. So yeah, really looking forward to where we go from here.
Yeah. Season 2 was really good. I mean, there was a lot of stuff in season 42 that, I feel like we didn't even touch on. There was a whole, we could even talk about like sponsored challenges. And I think after we watch through probably the first 10 seasons, I think that's probably where most of the sponsored challenges happen. We might even be able to do an episode about that, because like I'm just thinking about even like the computer challenge was just so fun in season 2 and silly, and the like proposal happened, and like that was just so wild and bizarre. And I think that becomes its own whole conversation that you could go off on a tangent. And there was Mountain Dew and Doritos, and one brought to you by Target, and all this crazy stuff. And there's going to be more of that sort of thing happening as we keep going on through these early era of Survivor, where it's just kind of cheesy early 2000s TV that's so fun and silly. So I'm excited to see how these seasons develop. We're coming up on Africa. I have seen Africa, but I don't really remember much of it at all. I only remember, I remember who wins it. I remember no one else in this season. And I just totally kind of watched it like with my family. It was just kind of like on in the background when I was a kid. So now we're getting into Survivor that I don't know. We're getting into totally uncharted territory for me, which is really exciting. So now it's like the both of us are experiencing all new television, which is going to be super duper fun. So I'm really excited. And I think that, these next few weeks are going to be really cool as we move into Africa and then Marquesas, as we start leading into eventually getting to All Stars, as we're ramping up to the really fun seasons and getting into a lot of the really iconic Survivor moments that we have coming up. It's about to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun too. So with that, we will close this chapter on season 2, Survivor the Australian Outback. Go check out our other episodes relating to the Australian Outback. We talked about a season in review, talked about the winner Tina, and talked about the first villainess Jerry. So if you want to go check out those episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at Idle Talk Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, and give us a follow.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening, and we will catch you guys in the next one.